Hello, my name is Craig Comish, and I'm the 2023 Turquoise United Symposium Chairman. For those who don't know, Turquoise United is an annual conference centered around turquoise. This year, the Turquoise United Conference is held in Albuquerque, New Mexico from August 10th through 12th. Registration is currently open at turquoiseunited.com. This year's conference will feature several different events, including a 4-session symposium. As the chair for the symposium, I have the privilege of working with some incredible presenters and panelists. Today, I will be interviewing Joe-Dan Lowry about the symposium session entitled Fingerprinting, Sourcing, Turquoise Origins. Joe-Dan, thanks for joining me today.
It's good to be here.
Well, what really excites you about this year's Turquoise United?
Like any Turquoise United, what fascinates me is I grew up around the world where you met the miners, you knew who the stone cutters were, different guys would help you. You know, our family learned how to cut from this one or learned this specific from this cutter, or the different miners marketing their turquoise and having a passion for it, or even the guys who are out there making some of the brilliant imitations. It's so cool when people realize that this is a people's industry. When they get involved in that, then it's like how I grew up. You know, I got to go to different mines and meet all of these guys that no longer are alive, but they shared their stories, and that's part of what I enjoy. So to me, it's the people. It's that you can come and meet people from all over the world, and they can meet you. And so if you have product or if you have opinions, these are the people who actually care.
Outstanding. And I learned so much just in last year's meeting. So what's your session about this year?
Mine is it's a precursor, summation, and beginning. So there's been a lot of scientists out there that have claimed that they can fingerprint turquoise for the last 20 years. And every time they do a new study, they admit that their previous study wasn't true. And turquoise is a big subject. One of my biggest quotes out in the world is that turquoise is greater than science. And it just is so unique in the way that it forms in its sedimentary creation. And so I'm going to give a summation and show where the different studies have helped in the data collecting, and also where they haven't been able to prove their categories. And then I will end up introducing the new study that the Turquoise Museum and a couple of other institutions are going to start developing and working on to actually create a library before we actually publish a paper on what we think the library states in its summation. So it's kind of a collection of everything. I'll go after, I think museums are fair game. I know the Turquoise Museum is fair game because we're an institution. I'll go after the British Museum on a book they published in 2006 on their artifacts that are from what is now Mexico. And they didn't study any of the Mexican turquoise mines. So I'm pretty sure their conclusion was not a conclusion. And so it'll be just logical things like that. Hopefully with some levity to it, but also some hard-hitting science and logic and information about why this is such a difficult thing to do.
Well, I'm going to be very interested to hear this. So what inspired you to propose this particular session?
I think it's important because as the different miners have gone off the scene, and so most American miners, we're a new part of the world of mining turquoise. And so I knew who Dow Ward was, or different ones, Lucky Brown, different guys, Leonard Hardy. Those names were massive back in the 60s and 70s. And before them, there were guys that were in the turn of the 20th century that were mining turquoise. And so when you today, almost all of the guys you find online and things like that, they market, but there is no history. And so when people ask them questions, they get to say whatever they want, but they always push that nobody knows what they're talking about. Here's my opinion. And so fingerprinting for the last 20 years has been one of the ways the scientists have been trying to answer that question, to give provenance to pieces of turquoise as the turquoise has become more and more rare and more expensive. And so now the expense of turquoise, you pay $5,000 for a piece or whatever, those are crimes. And if you do that over the internet, those are big time crimes and they're enforced. And so I think that if we realize that there are people out there who do have specific knowledge in different categories, like if I had a question about Fox Turquoise, I would talk to Dal Ward. Now I can't. And so the different levels that you can access information are going to be different. And so the science is one of those factors that helps replace some of the celebrities times past of cutters and miners and people who had knowledge. And so trying to weave the science with the personalities and the histories and turquoise is the only future to provenance. Because if you're going to say that nobody can tell turquoise, that means neither can you. So it has to get outside of opinion. If I'm going to say that's a piece of the rarest number 8 in the world and it's worth $5,000 a carat, I need to be able to back that up. So is that science, or when I go blind in 5 years or 10 years, or I forget what I'm talking about, was what I said true? Can somebody come in behind me and actually access the information, and the information be true to where that it becomes historical and true provenance? And so the whole thing all ties together, and that's why this lecture is so important. The challenge for everybody out there is, if you want to have an opinion, come and take me on. I'll be glad to. Because if you're going to have a collection, you need to have a collection. If you're just going to talk from memory, it doesn't work. None of us get to say, well, I remember that the highest grade piece of turquoise I ever saw was from X and X mine, and it wasn't these mines. Show me. Otherwise, it's an opinion that science can't start backing up. And so it's bringing all of the opinions and all of the science together, and that's part of what this lecture is about. We couldn't do what we do if the guys hadn't done what they did before us. And so it's a community that needs to be brought forward. We've all made mistakes. We've all bluffed in that sense of an answer or things like that, or made a sale because somebody had to pay their rent or something, so they exaggerated. And then it goes on and on and on. So all of those kinds of things culminate into what I'll be talking about. So to me, the greatest science, if you're going to study turquoise, is anthropology, the study of human behavior, because us humans have a hard time sometimes when it's personal, actually accepting the science part or accepting somebody else's personal opinion. And so I enjoy those kinds of things. So I invite everybody to come out. Bring your stories. If you're a miner and you have a mine that nobody's been paying attention to, come and talk about it. Come and meet people, and don't give up. It's a cool industry.
So what are you doing specifically to prepare for the session?
Nothing. I'm just going to be like everybody else and just bring my opinion. I'm kidding. I'm going to be bringing some of the studies that I've done since 1992. I've done about, I don't know, I've done a lot of studies on turquoise scientifically and paid the money to do them. So I'll be bringing mine along with my mistakes while I insert others and their mistakes. And then I'll show how we all as a community can move forward. But yeah, there's some cool studies.
Having come from a science-based background myself, I really enjoy, obviously, pulling the stories together with the science. So that sounds exciting to me. So what can everybody expect to walk away from the session with?
Hopefully the first thing that they will be is inspired in their own story and in their own opinion, because I don't think anybody should take that away from others. And so if they're inspired to market their mine, or inspired what the gemstone is, or what the imitation is, or things like that, and they find their way within the industry that is growing worldwide, then I think that's a benefit. I don't think doing an expose on something is positive for anything. I think education and information allow people to be inspired to use their information for themselves. So one of my definitions in life is of a teacher. I don't believe a teacher is a celebrity. I know teachers believe, some of them apparently think they're celebrities, but a teacher's job is to expound knowledge to a student so that the student becomes smarter than the teacher. Not only that, the student should have the inspiration to know that their brilliance is going to find the teacher's mistakes. And I think when we teach with that humility and that vulnerability, then I think that that inspires the next generation to take hold of what is true and then learn from there.
Well, I guess I'd have to add, based on your comments earlier, obviously you had a lot of good teachers and a lot of good information sources, and they're gone now. A lot of those are gone from us
For
now,
everybody.
and you don't have that opportunity. So if we're not passing it along, if we're not taking the accumulation of that information history along with the science, it will be lost in the future.
And that's the purpose of Turquoise United. And so I think it's exciting. This will be the second year. I think it'll involve more people, but at the same time, more people and more opinions make things even more confusing. So that's
and interesting.
It's part of the fun of Turquoise. And so what
Absolutely.
I don't want is I never want people to come, even when they come to the museum, I don't want them to go, oh, well, you know what you're talking about because you have a museum. I want them to go, hey, did you know in this gallery that information you said isn't true? Because if we're not going to receive people and we're not going to have that conversation, there is no future.
Well, thank you, Jodan. We're all very excited about the conference and specifically the symposium. For those of you who haven't had a chance to register for this year's Turquoise United, make sure that you secure your ticket soon at turquoiseunited.com. Again, my name is Craig Comish, and for the entire Turquoise United team, thank you for joining us. We will see you again when I speak later with Dr. Aaron Palke and Alexander Goodsum from GIA about their sessions that they'll be presenting at this year's symposium.